Pedagogical documentation.
Hi, Maria.
From a Eurocentric perspective, Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory states that our relationships are interconnected, meaning the child affects its environment just as it affects them. From an indigenous perspective, everything in the universe is connected. In How Does Learning Happen?, we find a similar theory placing the child in the center of its relationships with the educator, family, and environment as the outer components. I decided to start this pedagogical documentation focusing on my part in the child's interrelationship, commitment to self, and co-regulation. As a future educator, my energy and presence in the classroom directly affects the children, the parents, and the environment. Have you ever noticed that your parents are not in a good mood without them saying much? Or had a teacher that seemed so distracted it made you uncomfortable? My first pedagogical commitment may seem selfish, but it is my commitment to self, to bring my best version to class, to be present and open to learning and exploring alongside children, and to avoid burnout. Self-care became synonymous with Netflix binges, wine, and face masks. A talk by Marie Hollowaychuk has taught me that these are actually comforting coping strategies that only serve a person in the short term. Rather, self-care may look like booking an appointment with a counselor, having a sleeping schedule, and learning time management strategies. Self-care is actually pretty boring. It is actions that are meant to build up your reserves so you don't have to frantically fill up a bath while chugging a glass of wine just to cope with a stressful day. It's about maintenance rather than frequent stops at the mechanic.
What do you think you're doing?
Leaving my troubles behind?
I've come to learn that when working with children, our self-regulation is extremely important because it results in co-regulation. Just like on airplanes, we are asked to put on our oxygen masks first so that we can help others. If I am stressed or distracted, it affects my interactions with the children and results in a ripple effect throughout the classroom. I remember a particular day when I was not at my best. The whole classroom felt like a pressure cooker. When I left at the end of the day, I wondered if I had done anything but raise my voice. I was not proud of how the day went, and I did not enjoy feeling like the bad cop. This is not a role that I would like to assume, and I have made a point to observe and respond rather than react. Child safety. Children are competent, capable of complex thinking, curious, and rich in potential. Haven't we all heard that phrase a million times? Then why is it so hard to actually treat children as if they are competent and capable? Safety was a big issue in my placement. Get off of there, it is not safe, was a phrase I've heard very often. Children stayed indoors when it was too icy out because it was not safe. And at some point, children started repeating the phrase, "It is not safe," to their peers. When entering the childcare center, families and children are greeted with a large banner that says, "Welcome back. Safe childcare settings, enhanced disinfecting practices." Now, while we are still in the middle of a pandemic, safety became the new buzzword that justifies bubble wrapping children. But who does it actually serve? Are we confusing safety with stability or security? And why is the focus shifted from children's curiosity and education to disinfection protocols? Now, I do not blame parents and educators for wanting to keep children safe. In a world where bad news are the norm, it's hard to feel secure. But children should not suffer because of that. When we are so focused on keeping the child safe, we miss out on opportunities to build other skills and wonder alongside them. Essentially, when we reflect our fears and insecurities onto children, we are robbing them from the opportunity to explore the world through their unique, fresh lens. The message that overprotection sends is that the world is not a safe place. How is that fair? And how can I surrender and let go of control? In Think, Feel, Act by the Ontario Ministry of Education, the educators discovered that reducing rules actually resulted in fewer accidents, viewing the child as competent and capable. During our forest school experience, the educators Fran and Louise walked us through what it actually means to view the child as competent. Fran shared one experience in which she felt uncomfortable with how high a child has climbed and asked them to get off the tree. The child felt that they had the capacity to climb the tree, and as they were climbing off, teased friend by putting pressure on the branches, showing how stable they are. Interestingly, friend acknowledged that that was her personal fear that she reflected on the child. Friend's advice was, if you can't hold it in, claim it as your own. While I have not said anything to children who explored their limits climbing on tree stumps in the playground, I have anxiously watched them, praying that they would not fall. I have not prevented children from building their capacity, but I was not fully there to support them in their experience. The next step for me would be to let go of fear and let the child lead, fully trusting them. Commitment to land-based education. Through one of my CPL cycles, I have learned about indigenization of the curriculum. I am still coming to learn how to create an authentic indigenized curriculum, but what I have learned is that outdoor play and nature has a major role in honoring and reconnecting with the land. The environment is described as the third teacher in how does learning happen, but it is the first teacher in indigenous worldviews. I remember how valuable my experiences with the land were when I was a child. I was taken on a trip and taught how to make mallow patties. For months after that experience, I was picking up leaves that looked like mallow, urging my parents to make patties. My father was also a key figure in my connection to nature, modeling outdoor curiosity. He was always the first to take off his shoes and walk barefoot on the grass. He knows many facts about plants and animals and always encouraged me and my brother to smell or taste certain plants. When we were out of store-bought aloe vera, he noticed an aloe vera plant near our house and brought a piece home. Seeing his bravery and courage encouraged me to try and follow him. I strive to model the same outdoor curiosity when working with children. In placement, children would often stay indoors due to bad weather. I too enjoy the comfort of staying indoors in chilly weather, but I must remember who I'm doing this for, and the answer is for the children. In Canada, we can experience more than 6 months of chilly weather. Does that mean that we should stay in for 6 months?
Sooner or later, you're gonna have to go outside.
Listen, I told you that I'm never leaving my house again.
Never ever?
Never, ever, ever.
I don't think there is anything such as bad weather. It's just bad clothing. Barb Carlson. The advantages of spending time outdoors absolutely outweigh the advantages of staying indoors. Pedagogical documentation. When looking at communities, we look at them as a whole. Our classrooms, in a way, are small communities, yet the focus is on the individual. When documenting, I noticed that the educators photographed each child individually and posted a short description of what they are doing for their parents to see. Not only that it is time-consuming, it is also exhausting and takes away from learning as a community. Instead of documenting each child individually, I would like to document the learning experience, focusing on what the children have learned and what they have wondered about. Creating these inquiry questions may encourage adults to join the inquiry process and share their experiences. I also don't believe in program plans. From what I was seeing in placement, coming up with program plans every week caused lots of stress for the educators. They often resorted to Pinterest, and some of the activities planned never took place. The plans were hung on the board, but the children did not benefit from them whatsoever. I remember planning an activity to the last detail, only for the children to take it off script in the first 5 minutes. I had to learn to go with the flow and come to understand that this is not the traditional learning experience that I remember, in which a teacher has a theme and children have to follow. I learned that I can plan all I want, but it may be a waste of time. Instead, I should learn to follow the children's cues, document key points in their experiences, and notice what they are wondering about. I am not yet comfortable with the idea of completely ditching program plans. I am not sure how that would work in a classroom, and the idea of not having a planned curriculum makes me so uncomfortable. How will I survive without having season-themed activities? My brain screams. In The Not Good Educator by Lisa Johnston, she reconceptualized the traditional program plan and made place for documentation in the form of drawing, notes, questions, photographs, and other. Yes, it did not follow Ontario's regulation, but it took the pressure off the educators, and made space for them to actually co-construct knowledge with the children. On my last day of placement, I decided to rearrange the tree stumps in the outdoor playground. They were too far apart and children could never really walk in a full circle. After moving one stump, the children noticed a worm. I was very excited, and one child picked up the worm and said, "It's wiggly." The educator that was not afraid of worms tossed it away. I brought out small plastic rakes and let the children dig for worms. Later, the educators and I discussed activity plans around worms. I shared with them what the Seneca ECE School Lab did, and while they were not comfortable with building a home for the worms, they compromised on building a home for ants. Family involvement. In a hurried society that refuses to slow down and struggles with feeling uncertainty, many adults have forgotten what being a child feels like, what it is like to stop and wonder about a flower and view the world from a new lens. I believe that having parents join into the daily routine at the child care center can help build trust and connection between children, families, and educators. I actually struggled to write about this because unfortunately due to COVID, parents were not allowed to come into the building. The main form of communication took place through an app. I'm thinking that small acts like adding a bench at the entrance for parents to use or asking for their opinion and expertise on a topic we're about to explore can help them feel more involved. When families are not involved or cooperating, from what I've observed, it resulted in a gap between parents and educators. The educators in my placement sometimes felt like they were babysitters, where parents just drop off their children and pick them up after 8 hours. This must change. I'm still learning what family involvement looks like in childcare centers. I can add books to the library, I can celebrate everyone's holidays, but what I would really like to see is more authentic communication. I would like parents to share experiences they have valued as children. I would like to have inquiry questions and sticky notes around the center so they can add their voice and notes. I want families to be seen and heard.
This is my family. I found it all on my own.
I'm treating this document as sort of a time capsule. This is what I know now. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm curious about. This is what I'm coming to know. And this is what I'm uncomfortable with. It will be really interesting to view this document in 10 years and see how my positions have changed. I decided to have some fun and make 3 predictions about the future of early years education. First, AQI scores are dropped. Second, the Government of Ontario releases an indigenized version of how this learning happened. 3, forest schools regain popularity. Thank you for watching and see you in 10 years.